Welcome to Season 3 of the Sober Motivation Podcast. Join me, Brad, each week as my guests and I share incredible, inspiring, and powerful sobriety stories. We are here to show sobriety is possible, one story at a time. Let's go. Malin started drinking at 13 years old, and at 18, things blew up as she was then legal age to purchase beer in Norway. At first, it was to keep up with friends, and the consequences took a bit of time to set in, but she was hooked on the escape alcohol provided. After some years, things progressed and she found herself drinking up to 17 liters of beer or 4 liters of vodka per day. She didn't go anywhere without alcohol. She mentioned her body was giving out, and her doctor confirmed this by wishing her well and saying there was no need for another appointment next year, as she would not make it. A life without alcohol was something she could not even imagine. After many months of sickness, Mailinn was put into a coma, and that lasted 3 months. Today, we celebrate a true miracle. She has 3 years sober. This is Mailinn's story on the Sober Motivation Podcast. Welcome back, everyone. Brad here for another incredible episode. Right before we get into it, I want to mention thank you for all the new reviews on the podcast. That's incredible. And if you haven't had a chance to review it yet on Apple or Spotify, please do that. Show some love on that. And if you enjoy the podcast and it brings joy or value or something positive to your life, please consider donating. I'll drop the link in the show notes below, but you can donate to support the show at buymeacoffee.com/sobermotivation. It's a one-man show. Honestly, I do everything from booking the guest, obviously recording the episodes, editing the episodes, and also cutting up some video clips to do some promotion on Instagram. So any help would be appreciated. And if you can't and you just want to kick it and listen to the show, you're always welcome. I also want to give a big shout out to Sober Buddy with a brand new incredible platform. The mobile app, the brand new mobile app on Apple App Store is live. Sober Buddy community. Had a meeting this morning. I host a meeting on Monday mornings, Wednesday evenings, and Friday mornings, so I start my week and kind of end my week with the Sober Buddy community, and it was just incredible. I was fired up. Everybody is just doing well. And even those that might be going through the struggle, they keep showing up. They keep asking questions. They keep doing the best they can. And it's just incredible to be a part of something like that, a part of a community that's working together to improve their lives is just something incredibly powerful. So if you could use some support, some community connection, and you want to come and hang out on Monday, Friday, or Wednesday, and we also have other incredible hosts that do meetings in between those times, head over to yoursoberbuddy.com or search Sober Buddy Community in the Apple App Store. Download the app. Free trial is there, and I hope to see you in a meeting soon. All right, let's get to the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Sober Motivation Podcast, all the way from Norway. We've got my friend Mailinn. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for jumping on here to do this. I've seen your story on Instagram here and there, and it's just incredible. And I reached out to you, and I'm so happy that you said yes to sharing it with us.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I've never done anything like this, so I'm happy to help others stuck in this.
Yeah. So, how we start every
Yeah.
show is what was it like for you growing up?
I grew up in a two-parent household. I have two brothers. They are 1 and 3 years older than me. My parents had a really unhealthy relationship, so we were actually pretty relieved when they divorced. I was 14 at the time. My father remarried and he moved out of Norway, actually. He moved to Greece. And yeah, we have great contact with our mother. We all live around the same place. And it was a lot of addiction in my family, especially on my father's side. We lost many people to addiction, but it was chaotic at times. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Yeah, and we've talked on the show a lot before about divorce, the people who share the story of addiction that's very common theme. What's it like in Norway growing up? Like you go to school, obviously, and did you play any
Yeah.
sports or anything like that? How did you do in school? Did you have a bunch of friends and stuff like that, or what was it like?
I had a bunch of friends. It's the same friends I have now. My best friend, we met when we were 5. I did play football, soccer in school for many years, actually. I come from a kind of like a small, very small town where everyone knows everyone. It's not a lot to do here, or it wasn't when I was a teenager. So we started to party pretty early. The first time I partied with my just three of my girlfriends, we were actually 12 years old because it was literally nothing to do. So the party scene started pretty early. But yeah, I love living in Norway in general. We have a great healthcare system, which I've needed. I've had a happy childhood. It's just been a little
Yeah.
chaotic,
Yeah.
but I've had amazing friends and I still have the same friends and an amazing family.
Yeah, that's beautiful. When you say a small town, how many people live in this town you grew up in?
Really, it's not in a town. It's like a village. I live an hour away from the second largest city in Norway, but right here where I live, we are like 6,000 people, maybe.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, and you're still there. You still live in the same place you grew up in?
Yes, not in the same house. My friends, they built me an apartment, so I live here. But yeah, it's the same place. I want to move closer to the city when I start studying next year, hopefully. But for now, I live here and I have all my friends and family around me.
Yeah, beautiful. So you brought it up. I mean, this is a sobriety podcast, and we know that that's going to be part of the story here. But at 12 years
Yeah.
old, you start kind of partying. Is that drinking alcohol, or what does that look like for you at 12?
Yeah. We met in our trailer and we were four girlfriends and we're just going to try it out. It was exciting. So we got some older people to buy it for us and it was just us. And it was actually a fun evening. But it started there. And then my friends and everyone just kept on drinking. And then when we were 14, it really escalated where we were partying a lot on weekends, like home parties. We were obviously wasn't old enough to go to a bar. So we had
Yeah,
a lot of home parties.
gotcha. What are the rules there in Norway to buy and go to bars?
It's pretty strict, and that really gave me anxiety in the later years. We have alcohol is only allowed to buy during the day. We have this restriction. You can buy it from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., 6 p.m. on Saturdays, and on Sundays, it's closed. You can't buy alcohol except in bars and pubs. And it's 18 years old. You have to be to buy it.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so
And
where
20 for the hard liquor.
there's a different age for hard liquor then.
Yeah, because we
Okay.
sell beers and stuff in the grocery store, but we actually have an apartment for hard liquor. It's not allowed to be sold in grocery stores.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Does that keep a lot of
Why?
people from getting it or prevent people from
No,
getting it?
no, I think they just stress out a bit more because this hard liquor building, it closes way earlier than the beer sale. So on Saturdays, the hard liquor actually closes at 3 p.m. And
Oh.
in weekdays, it's 6 p.m.
Okay. What's it like there, the
Yeah.
culture overall? Like, I mean, I'm in Canada and I talk with a lot of people in the UK, a lot of people in the US, Australia. I mean, everybody shares the same kind of story. I mean, it's just normalized, it's everywhere.
Yes,
Over the top.
literally
Same
everywhere.
there?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, especially in this small place that I'm living, it's nonstop partying for many people. And in the city as well, you really could notice that when it was COVID and everything was closed, the bars and stuff, and the town was just deserted. And then when they opened back up, the liquor sale was full of people back
Mm.
in the city. So we really noticed the difference.
No, that's interesting. Did they actually close the stores? Like, you couldn't buy the liquor?
Yeah, I was in coma at the time, thankfully. But they did close for a while, the stores, and then there were home deliveries. And it was really much harder to get the alcohol.
Yeah.
And the bars and pubs, they were all closed.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's back up here a little bit. I was just interested about that in a sense, right? Because the thing with alcohol was even here, people couldn't wrap their head around it. Why they weren't closing the stores that sold the alcohol? Well, I mean, because you
Hmm.
can die if you're addicted to alcohol and you don't have it. The majority of the population, I feel like they didn't understand that connection because they were just like, oh, well, all the other stores are closed. Why are those stores not closed? So that was just interesting to me. But so we'll go back. So you're starting out at 14. You mentioned things are starting to take off here when it comes to drinking. Like you're still going to school and doing what you need to do in that sense, and you're drinking. When do the consequences start for you? Do they start young?
Well, yeah, but not that young. I was my third year of high school.
Mm.
Then I really noticed a change in my drinking habits. And I was aware of it. I'm just like, push it back. So I noticed that weekends for me just meant partying. And My schoolwork suffered, of course, that year, the most important one. We had this thing in Norway when we are graduates from high school. Don't know how to explain this tradition, but the month of May, we all dress up in this outfit and we basically drink for a month to celebrate of getting through high school. It's called litres. That really made a difference for me and just kept going from there. I think. In 2011, I was highly aware of my drinking because I read back in some of my journals. I'm actually writing like, you need to stop. You need to not party this much. You have to have a sober weekend. And then I can just see from my journals that it just escalated and it was weekdays, but it was just a couple of beers. And then, yeah, it got worse and worse.
Yeah, progressive.
So,
Did you have a lot of sober weekends, like, since you started at 12, 14, and
yeah, I did. I did have a lot of sober weekends, but not so many after I turned 18. Then I don't think sober weekends, it was rare because then I could buy it by myself. I could actually go out on the town and not only be on home parties. So it escalated when I turned 18 and then it just kept going.
yeah. What are you doing outside of the drinking with your life after high school?
I worked at a bakery and my plan was to reduce some subjects. I needed to improve my score or my grade. So I was just working for a year and then I was going to do that. But then I had planned to do more with that. I already had a pretty big alcohol problem then. So it got delayed and then I couldn't work anymore. I couldn't study. And so I started seeing a psychologist instead. So that was what I was doing, trying to get better.
Yeah.
So my 20s is just a dark chapter.
How old are you now?
I'm 31. I'll be 32 next Friday.
Okay. Oh, happy early
Yeah.
birthday.
Thank
32.
you. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's incredible. So walk me through, if you don't mind, like, what did this look like for you? Because I think everybody it's a little bit different. A lot of people might be a little bit the same, but, like, what did a day in your life look like in your 20s there when you were really struggling with this thing?
Well, I got in newspapers here in Norway for a reason. I drank an abnormal amount of alcohol and no one could actually see it. They knew it, but I didn't act any differently. But I actually converted some because we use liters here. Do you use gallons? I think. Do you?
Leaders.
Liters. Oh,
Yeah.
great. So I drank between 12 to 17 liters of beer every day or 3 to 4 liters of vodka on my worst. And then everyone was telling me when I was in treatment, I had this addiction psychologist, and everyone kept telling me that they had never met anyone who drank as much as I did. They basically didn't know how to treat me. I felt when I actually was trying to get help and I committed myself to like a rehab facility, but they couldn't give me the medication that I needed because they had these rules to follow and they didn't help me at all. So I just couldn't handle it. And the psychologist kept telling me that they wish they could give me more, but they couldn't because it's against the law, even though I drank an abnormal amount.
Yeah. So would you go through terrible withdrawals if you didn't have it, or
Y-
did you even let yourself
Yeah,
get to that point? You did.
I did. I started like crazy hallucinating and it was bad. I was really scared for my life at several points there and it was just unbearable. I did have some sober periods and it lasted a week and then 3 weeks, but not a lot during the 7 years that I drank. And I had this liver doctor that I went to every year and he just got more and more depressed. Yeah, everyone just kept telling me that I was going to die. I wasn't going to see 30. And again, a lot of weight because I drank a lot of beer.
Yeah. I mean, this might be a little bit of a silly question. What did you feel the need to have so much beer for?
I just developed this insane tolerance. I saw on TV like this alcoholics that drank 8 beers a day. And I was like, oh my God, that would have been so much cheaper. I live in Norway. It's not cheap to drink. But I just needed more and more to actually function. I could have withdrawals. If my blood alcohol level got under, we say 3 here. It's a deadly limit. But I started to shake way before I was actually sober. Yeah, I just had a ridiculous tolerance for alcohol and just kept growing. So
Yeah.
by the end there, I actually drank 4 liters of vodka a day. If I drank vodka or up to 30 and 36, I have 17 liters of beer.
Is your mom around at this time? Like, in your 20s there?
Yeah.
Was she
Yeah.
noticing?
Yes, she
Yeah.
did.
You lived with her?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay.
So she noticed pretty early, and then my brothers found out. And as I said, I live in a small place, so it didn't really take that long before everyone knew. And it just kept escalating. At the start of all this, they tried to, of course, get me help and try to get me out of it. And then they realized eventually they just had to accept me for the disease and all. So
Yeah.
they stood by me all those years. And they knew that wherever I came, alcohol came with me. They really adjusted extremely. I have pretty great friends and family.
Yeah, wow.
They were, of course, very worried about me.
Yeah, because 4 liters, and you said it's expensive too, right? So
Yeah, ridiculous. Now, if you're gonna have a beer out on the town, I try to not because that's just ridiculous. It's equivalent to $10 for one beer out on the town. Crazy.
yeah, no, it is for sure. So, do you consider yourself an alcoholic or no?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, absolutely. I actually realized it pretty early. Actually, I was like, yes, I know I am. This is not usually how people behave around alcohol. So I realized it actually back in 2011. I had totally forgotten about this until I read through my journals. But then I had these long discussions with myself that I had not partying every weekend. But yeah, I knew I was very honest when people asked me
Mhm.
questions. It was so much better when I didn't have to hide it, less stressful, even though it's a living hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here just thinking I'm so proud of you for where you've
Thank you.
come because, oftentimes you hear a story and then I'm looking at you now when you're smiling and you're telling us, and I'm like, my goodness, I'm just so happy that you were able to find a way out of this. But I know that the story does take a little bit more of a turn down the
Yeah.
road from here. But yeah, it's interesting because in 2011, you knew you were an alcoholic, quote unquote. I always hear two different sides to that, right? Some people openly admit it, that it is
Mhm.
what it is, but are not moving in the direction of changing it, but just kind of like accepted it. Do you feel like you just accepted it? I'm an alcoholic and this is the way I'll go out like this?
No, not as first. I actually did go to see a psychologist once a week for 7 years for all the time that I was drinking. And at the start of this, I had hope because when I started to drink daily from the moment I woke up, I had this surgery. I got my tonsils removed. And then I noticed that I could stop drinking for a month. So then I was kind of like back to, oh, maybe it's not such a big deal because I could quit. But that was actually the last time I could. And then I did accept it in a way. I was thinking, okay, I'm in my early 20s. I'm going to survive this,
Mm,
It's just a phase. Like as the years went on, then I could actually feel my body dying. And my doctor, he told me literally every time I saw him, he told me that you will not live to see 30. You will be dead long before that. And I was like, yeah, no. He said that so many times, I'm still alive. And I just kept trying to ignore the danger of it, even though I knew it and I could feel it. But the last 3 years, I was just like a walking dead. I didn't have any energy. In 2019, I actually sat on the couch, and whenever I had to go to the toilet, which was often because I drank insanely, I actually sat on the couch just crying because I didn't have the energy to actually stand up. I hadn't brushed my hair for a year or so because I actually had to lift my arms. It was hell on earth. It really was.
yeah, looking back, I mean, did you have any awareness that this is what alcohol could do?
No, I was thinking about it a lot because one side of my family in particular, they have had struggles with addiction. We're not that many left. I had this weird, it's so embarrassing to look back on, but I was like, oh, that's never going to happen to me. I mean, I didn't really think much of it and what it actually did to people and how it could absolutely take control of your life because I was like, I can't be an addict. When it started, I was thinking that I was too young. Who's ever heard of a 20-year-old female alcoholic? They are like 70-year-old men. I was comforting myself. Yeah, no, I didn't think of alcohol in that way at all before it happened to me.
Wow, yeah, but that is so true. Yeah, I mean, stepping back, we have these pictures in our minds or our experiences about who looks like this or who fits in that box, and really at the end of the day, it's like our neighbors, it's our friends, our family. Those are the people who are struggling. It's not just people that we think that we see in the movies and all that type stuff. Yeah. My goodness, I thought I knew some of your story, and I'm realizing really quick here that I don't know any of it.
Yeah, I haven't shared this much. Yes.
Yeah. Which I really appreciate you doing it because that's a really powerful part of it all is that
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
thing can get anybody. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
where you come from. It doesn't matter what things look like for you, what status you have, what race we are, anything. It can really grab a hold of anybody because it doesn't care. And some people want to argue that to say, well, it's not going to for some people. But here's the thing is when you go to the store and you go and you buy that box of beer or that vodka, they don't ask you where you work, what race you are. It doesn't matter. Anybody can get it. And if you can get it, then you can get hooked on it.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing when people have often told me that I got this because of my genes and whatever. And I'm like, it can happen to you too. Like, you don't have to come from an addiction family. It can grab a hold of you too as well. And they were like, oh, no, I'm in control and I just use for fun and whatever. And I can see warning signs on people around me and they don't admit that it's there. I don't know if they literally don't know or if they just try to fool themselves.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's more powerful than people think,
Yeah.
like a
No,
lot more.
for sure. And it
Mm.
does sound like you got to a really, really tough place. And you mentioned too, like you felt like you were dying, right? Is that what you said
Yeah,
earlier?
I could feel my body dying. I actually went as far as to write letters to all my loved ones that they would find when I was dead. It wasn't their fault and that's I love them and everything. I hid them under my bed because I knew when they would clean out my apartment that they would find it. I didn't want to die. I wanted to live more than anything. I wanted to quit drinking. I prayed and I prayed and it was really horrible. But I knew I was going to die. When I had my last checkup, before everything, my liver doctor's office, he actually told me that he was always depressed when I was there, but he just told me that I know we have this standing appointment every fall, but I won't see you next year. And I think you know this. And I was like, yes, I do. I could feel that my body wasn't going to survive another year. 6 months after that appointment, I was in a coma.
Wow. Okay, before we jump into that though, I wanted just to mention something on what you shared there. I mean, for sure, that's really heavy stuff. And I do appreciate you for sharing that because that's really heavy, but I think that's where it can lead us, right? Everybody's going to have their different sort of ending to the addiction. But I think that's the toughest spot to be in. It was for me anyway. I wanted nothing more than to quit, but I just couldn't quit. And everybody around you looks at you like I had people that were supportive and I had people that were judgmental and even the supportive people, I don't think that they could quite wrap their head around, "Why can you not just shut this thing down?" And I would talk with them and say, "I want nothing more than to do that. Trust me, I don't wanna live this way, but I just can't do it." And I just wanted to shed light on that. Like, for me personally, that was the hardest place to be, is that I wanted nothing more to get sober, but for a few years, I just couldn't do it.
Agreed. I absolutely agree. They wanted to understand the people around me, but they didn't have an addiction. So I tried to like compare it to that if I had an oxygen tank and alcohol in front of me, I would actually drink till I passed out.
Mm.
I would choose alcohol over oxygen. And I tried to explain how it was like, but they can't understand it because they haven't felt that on their body. But they did know eventually, that is, they did understand that it was not a choice for me that I wanted out every single minute of a day for years. The first year it was whatever, but after the first year, I wanted out and I would do almost anything to get out of it, but I couldn't. Yeah, it was really my biggest wish. So I never ever take this for granted.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. So moving forward into the story, so 2019, where are we at now? About 2020? Because you're gonna go into this when you went into a coma here. Lead
Mhm.
us up to that, a week before that. What did things look like? What was that all about?
Well, I can go a month before because it's kind of relevant. I knew I was going to die, I was just so surprised every day when I actually woke up. Then I started one day to notice that my legs were really weak, like they couldn't carry me. And I was like, okay, that's just the alcoholism, killing me. So it's just probably how it starts. Actually, I didn't go to the doctor or anything until I was almost completely paralyzed in the legs. And then I went to my doctor's office and he, of course, sent me to the hospital. And at the hospital, they took away my alcohol. So I discharged myself against medical advice. So this all happened again. I got more and more paralyzed. Got sent back to the hospital. They did the same, took away my alcohol. So I left against medical advice. And then the last time, this is a crucial moment. I collapsed at home because it was reaching my lungs and my organs were shutting down. The first thing when I wake up at the hospital, there's this doctor in front of me and he says, no one on this floor, nurses or doctors, is going to comment on your drinking. You do you. You can have as much beer in here as you want. Just do not leave this hospital because you won't come back. And then I stayed because he didn't take my alcohol away. And I was in a coma a few hours later. So he saved my life because I would have left if he wouldn't have said that. And I was in a wheelchair. I had people actually helping me because I couldn't walk at this point. So I had to wheel myself out of the hospital. I had a mother and a friend who helped me, but they didn't know what to do. But yeah, that doctor really saved my life. And they was on my brother's birthday, which made it all more depressing. I couldn't talk because my lungs were shutting down. So I just kept coughing, this horrible cough. And I was so tired. I couldn't handle all the coughing. So I actually asked them to put me in a coma. I couldn't live like this anymore. And then my mother took her phone to my ear so I could try to wish my brother a happy birthday. And I just coughed in the phone and he was like, yeah, I know what you're trying to say and I love you. And that was the last time I talked to him. I was in a coma really shortly after.
Wow. Your mom's there with you,
Wha-
though?
She was with me, but this was March 19, 2020. So I was 3 months in the hospital with no visitors because of COVID. But month 4, they could visit me again. But yes, she was with me at the time. We were actually in quarantine when I was put in a coma. And then she had to leave because COVID. So she had to wait for calls every day. Almost the first thing they told her every day when they were going to give her an update was that my fever wouldn't break. It didn't break for 2 months. I got prednisone and that saved my life. But they told her, like in every phone call, that her liver is horrible, but she's not a candidate for transplant. If her liver dies, she dies. So that was really hard for her to hear. They told her so often, and she was like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, wow. Did they mention to you
Yeah.
that they were gonna put you in a coma?
Yeah, they did. The timeline here in 2020, I remember everything from my alcoholism, like everything. But the last few months, it's really weird in my head. But the timeline, because when I got in a coma, my world started for me. This is a world of my own. I lived in for years. I hallucinated. And so I have a little hard time placing everything. But they did tell me that they considered putting me in a coma and that it's nothing improved. And I actually begged them to put me in a coma because I couldn't handle it anymore. I was so weak. And my body just kept on coughing. And I was like, it is too much. I didn't have any energy. And then my body just kept coughing and it was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That was for 3 months?
4 months.
4
Uh,
months. Wow.
yeah. The last month I could have visitors though. So fourth month was just heaven on earth, actually.
That's beautiful. And your mom and your brothers and friends came to visit you?
Yeah. First of all, I woke up and I had hallucinated so much. I was absolutely sure that I was like 45 and I had no idea where I was. I had a lot of delirium and it was just so unreal. And then they proceed to tell me that I can't have visitors because of this pandemic that is named after a beer. And I was like, of course, my brain would make that up because it's a Corona, it's a beer. Of course, my brain would, make something like that up. I was like, yeah, sure. I had this TV in the ceiling because I was paralyzed. I couldn't talk. So I just lay there and then watch this TV. And on the news, they were like, yeah, people are fighting over toilet paper. And I was like, yeah, yeah, sure. Sure they are. Like, this is not happening. So I was just thinking that it was not real. I was still in a coma. I didn't actually understand that I had woken up for quite some time, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel when you wake up? Like, do you think about drinking when you wake up or no?
Actually, yes, I did, but I thought I was still in a coma. So I was like, this world that I woke up to, I thought I was hallucinating. So I was like wondering what was happening with my real body since it was obviously not it. And I was like, okay, maybe I wake up and I'm sober, or maybe I'm dead and this is my purgatory. It's just a horrible time. The time works very differently. Like I was transferred to the neighbor hospital, and actually I just stayed there for about a week on the ICU there, 2 months on the other ICU. But this ICU actually felt like 10 years to me because I woke up in different rooms and places, and I lived in these worlds, very hard to explain. But I had a lot of hallucinations and delirium. I didn't actually understand that it was real until my fourth month. Yeah, but I was really trying to wake up, and I was trying to get my physical therapist to throw me out the window, actually. Just, no, I didn't want to kill myself. I just wanted to, when you fall in a dream, you wake up, and I wanted to wake up. So, but they didn't understand that, of course. And I was super heavy at this time. I weighed 165 kilos, like 363 pounds. They can just throw me out the window. Yeah. I don't think they actually
Yeah.
would have done it.
I hope
Yeah.
not. My goodness.
No.
You're about to turn the corner here. I hope they don't that's it out the window. Yeah. So then where do you go from there?
I went out of the hospital. 10 of stress is now just amazing physical rehab facility because I was paralyzed and I was going to learn how to walk and stuff. And then my first day there, they told me that the rules were that you could have two visitors, the same ones, during your entire stay. But since I've been in the hospital for 3 months, they made an exception for me. So I could have different visitors every day. But the first people that came in, it was my mother, my brother, and my best friend. And I hadn't seen them it was 3 months, but for me, it was 15 years in my head. I lived through a lot of weird shit and a lot of years in my hallucinations. When I actually saw them again, it was just, I had no words. It was just so, so lonely. I was paralyzed for 3 months and I couldn't talk because I had this tube in my throat. So I just lay there for 3 months and I couldn't tell them how I felt when the physical therapist touched me and tried to get me to sit up on the bed. I couldn't tell them that it was just these excruciating nerve pains and I couldn't scream or anything. So it was just very claustrophobic. So I got to this rehab facility and then they unplugged my tube I had in my throat and the tube I had in my nose and on my chest and everything. They just unplugged everything.
Mm.
And I had a little one on my wrist and I could talk again. And then I got visitors and then I could actually go outside because they had this beautiful viewing garden from my room. So my visitors, my mom, my brother, and my best friend, they wheeled me outside in the fresh air. And it was like magic. But I still had this feeling that I was in a coma, somewhere. But it was the first time I actually hoped that it was real life. I didn't dream it. I loved it there. They're just amazing people. And I had physical therapy every day and I had my visitors and it slowly like came to me that I'm actually sober. This is my 4 month sober. And it's just unreal to me. I didn't dare to believe it, I think. Then I talked to my aunt. She's one of my closest relatives. We have always had this special bond. And she was going to visit me the next day. This was a Thursday. And then she died that night. And my brain got straight back into like, this is not real. This is my hallucination. And then I just wished for the opposite. I wished that I was still in coma somewhere because I couldn't deal. And this was actually the first time I had to deal with something sober in years. And I was still so confused and it was really out of the body experience. I think I blacked out. Yeah, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. It still is. Did get to know that I talked to her on the phone the night before. She got to know that I survived and that I was sober. Not a day goes by without me missing her.
Yeah. Was that important to her for you to get sober? Has she mentioned it to you before?
Yeah, but she was really understanding, and that side of the family had a lot of addiction. It was very, normalized, and I really looked like them. And yeah, she wanted me to quit. She wanted me to survive. She got to know that at least, but she should have been here with me.
Yeah. I'm sorry for
Mhm.
that. Sorry for your loss
Thank
with
you.
her.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you're doing the physical therapy because, yeah, you're still paralyzed, right? How long
I
does
started
that last for?
I learned to walk with help. I had this tall walker in the hospital. I learned my first steps back in the hospital a few days before I was transferred to the rehab facility. But then I really started at the rehab facility. So I could walk with help. Yeah. So it just gradually got better. I'm still in physical therapy because it's a lot of things I can't do yet. Like I can't even believe that I used to jump like easily. It's insane to me. But yeah, I love it though.
Yeah. So you got that whole side of the physical therapy stuff. How have you been able to stay sober and not drink?
I prayed so hard for the second chance, and it was just extremely disguised. But I had not even a little cravings after what I've been through. I remember the reason actually I have these before videos of me walking at the hospital is because it wasn't planned then that I was going to do this before after stuff. I asked them to film me walking, and I could see the pain in my eyes because if I ever thought about drinking again, I would have these videos to look back on and see the consequences. Luckily, I haven't needed it. I'm just so beyond happy that I got the second chance and I would never ever risk it. I really want to help people in the same situation as I was. And I just have to believe that this is why I was given this second chance when everyone was telling me that I was going to die. I lost the weight along the way. And when you're in the ICU in Norway, they write you these journals from your stay there because you usually hallucinate and stuff so that you can get perspective and stuff. And they take photos of you. You can see your entire stay and they write how your day has been. And so I have these journals from the hospital and they really helped me a lot, which is why they do this to get perspective on things. And I really could have seen what I actually went through. And that has helped me a lot. I don't think of alcohol in that way anymore. I think of it like this devil. I really hate being around it. I hate watching it. I really hate it. I'm just beyond happy to be sober.
I can only imagine. I never really came that close, I don't think. I mean, maybe sometimes, but to be able to go from where you were, right? Because the addiction just enslaves us. Everything we
Mm.
do revolves around it. To get onto the other side, to be able to feel good in the morning and wake up and do all this stuff and everything. Yeah, I mean, that truly is a second chance where you have been able to turn things around from.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that's the rewards we get because I've talked to my friends about this, how grateful I am for stuff they don't even think about, you know? Like I can get up from the toilet with no help because my legs carry me now. And I can wake up and not crave alcohol. I usually got panic attacks when the time was close to 8 or 6 when the alcohol closed sale in Norway. And now it's just a Sunday, you know? I love Sundays now. And I actually have this here. It says the best gift in life is a second chance. And then I have a before, in between, and after picture of me. It's very motivational to have on my wall.
Wow. That is incredible. Well, you're making the best of this. What's the plan to help others? And on top of that, what would you say if somebody's listening to the show and they're stuck in any part of this, right? Because I think there's a spectrum here, right? Things weren't like this
Mm.
when you first started, and people are going to find themselves at different places. What would you say to somebody who's like just starting out with it, exploring whether or not they got a problem or they should call it quits, or what do you think?
I wish I would known this back then. Just seek help before it gets bad. You know, I went thinking that no, it's not that bad. I can't seek help yet. They're gonna think I'm an idiot because I don't have a problem. But just do it. It does matter. And this actually what amazed me the most about being sober. You know, I said everything because it's awesome. I had this voice when I was an active alcoholic. I wanted to quit more than anything. But then when I pictured my life without alcohol, something just happened in my brain. Like I couldn't picture it. And how would I ever have fun again? And all this weird stuff going on. And when I think back, those kind of thoughts now, it was just so, so clear to me that it was the alcoholism talking, that those thoughts were absolutely fake. And I wish I had known that back then. I wish an addict had told me that these thoughts were just completely fake. It was just your alcoholism trying to get you to keep drinking, you know? Yeah, I really wish I had known that because I truly believe that my life would be less somehow if I managed to stop drinking, which is just completely the opposite.
Yeah, that's so true, but we get stuck in that, and I think it relates to we feel like we're giving something up, but in reality,
Yeah.
we're getting so much. We're
Oh,
gaining
so
so
much.
much. Like, it's like giving up they say a lot too that giving up one thing for everything.
Yeah.
Like, you just get so much back.
Mm,
Like you mentioned,
absolutely.
Sundays, your mornings, I mean, relationships, opportunities, and ultimately that peace of mind. The peace of mind to where there's
Yes.
not something on your shoulder 24/7, 365 that's just tapping you over and over again to just burn down and destroy your entire life. That feels good.
Mm, absolutely. And I thought about alcohol and how to get it 24 hours a day, like every minute. And I had to bring it everywhere and I couldn't eat at a restaurant where they wasn't selling alcohol like McDonald's or whatever. I always had to bring it and I always had to worry about having money for it. And when they closed and a year into my alcoholism, I became an aunt for the first time to my beautiful nephew. And it was just so sad to me and all of us that I couldn't be the aunt I wanted to because of my energy. It was just not there. And then last year, both of my brothers had a girl each. So now I have three auntie babies, and I'm just the most committed aunt. I'm almost like a stalker aunt. And I can, I just am so involved in their lives and
Mm,
my nieces will never get to see that side of me and that I'm healthy, that I look completely different. You know, you see how sick I was. And they will never experience that side of me. And I'm just so thrilled I became a godmother to both of them. My nephew's baptism I couldn't attend, wasn't invited. They did always include me, both my friends and family. But I was in a vodka period at the time. So it's just, I didn't have any energy and no business being there really.
yeah,
It's really bugged me a lot,
yeah.
all the things I missed in my 20s.
Yeah, no, but it sounds like, you're moving forward, you're doing the best you can, right?
Yeah,
Which is good.
absolutely. I want to play this back in whichever way I can. Actually, now in September, I've been invited back to the hospital to give a lecture in front of just hundreds of people. So I'm really
Wow.
nervous about everything. And of course, I said yes because I said for years, and I really prayed for years. I said that if I just get out of this, I will use my second chance to do whatever I can to help others with this. And so next year, I'm hoping to get into nursing school. And then if my legs are where I want them to be, so now I'm gonna give a lecture, you know, if I don't pass out. I call the old me she, and I think she would be so proud of me. And I'm doing it for her, you know, the hopeless girl that thought she would never live to see 30. I really just want to help any way I can. It's the first thing I think about every single morning. I know that I wasn't actually supposed to be here. You know, I'm turning 32 next week and no one thought that was possible. So really,
Wow.
really blessed.
I gotta be honest, I'm taken back by your story. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. What
Really
day is your birthday?
grateful.
What day next week?
It's on Friday, 1st, September
Okay.
1st.
Okay.
Yeah. Something you have to know about me because it's just the epitome of everything I am. I'm an extreme Christmas person and I always have been like borderline crazy Christmas person. And when I couldn't feel that joy anymore for 7 years, that was actually one of the worst things for me. I couldn't feel the Christmas spirits and it was just beyond horrible. And so when I got better and I was going to have my first Christmas sober in 2020, everything was closed. I couldn't really do the things I wanted to, like Christmas markets and whatever. They were closed, but that didn't matter at all because I was sober and it was my first Christmas sober and it was just magical. When I started decorating, I could just feel it again and it was incredible. So now, since I missed 7 years of my beloved Christmas spirit,
Yeah.
I start decorating and celebrating Christmas on my birthday, September 1st.
Oh,
Yeah, that's when Christmas starts for me. So it lasts like 4 months. I've had a lot of comments about this, but everyone gets it. So I'm going to serve my family like gingerbread and whatnot when they come into celebrate me.
wow.
But I don't go all out. I just start to like decorating. And then in October, then it's all out.
October, it's done. It's everything
Yeah.
Christmas. Yeah. No, that's incredible. Yeah, I love that. Whatever works for you, obviously, right? Like, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
incredible.
That's also one of the things I'm doing for her because I just remember how depressed and hopeless she felt around Christmas time because, I remember that I used to love it. It was my favorite thing in my life, and I just couldn't feel it. So I'm doing it for her as well. We have a lot of Christmases to catch up on.
No, for sure, for sure. Is there anything before we wrap this up that you'd like to leave everybody with? Where can they find you if they want to reach out to you and say thank you or connect with you in any way too?
Well, I have an Instagram I'm very active on. I'm Soile91 is my username. You can reach me there. And the reason also I want to share my story is because I always told my psychologist that I wish that I had someone like on TV that was doing, I don't know how to put this, but worse than I did. So that if they got out of it, that I could too. But it wasn't anyone worse than me. I was told all over by doctors and psychologists. I had never, ever met anyone who drank as much. They didn't really know what to do with me. So this is also one of the reasons I went public and I was in the newspapers here in Norway because I want to be that person that I wanted to have for someone. It was so bad in my case. And so when I can get out of it, like literally everyone can. I hope to inspire people to do that because it really is not over until it's absolutely over. I was like a second away from dying and then I didn't. And now I'm sober and happy and just, oh
Thriving.
yeah, I'm so, yeah, so grateful.
Well, you've inspired me today, my friend.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been
Yeah.
very fun doing this.
You've done incredible to walk us through what it was, and I believe that your story is going to do exactly that. To let other people know that they can get off of the train per se whenever they want to, and that there's a lot of benefits if you do. And
Absolutely.
you don't have to ride this thing till the end or to the stop right before the end. You can
Yeah.
change your life and make something no matter where you're at. So thank you so much. And I'll drop your Instagram handle in the show notes for anybody who wants to give you a follow. And if you want to, too, you can check out some of the videos. The videos you've done are incredible to showcase your transformation and what you've been through. Go and look at the videos, everybody. Trust me. It'll really paint a bigger picture. It'll just connect you more with the story because this is just an audio show. Go over there and check out those videos because it's a miracle, truly. It'll truly paint a whole nother picture for you to kind of see this stuff in real life in that sense. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been very fun.
Yeah. Wow. What an incredibly powerful episode on the podcast. Now, Malin is from Norway, so English is not her first language, but I think she did incredibly well. It was a little bit of a tougher episode to get edited just because of the recording device that was used and stuff like that. But what an incredible story. My goodness. I mean, a coma for 3 months in the hospital for four, waking up during a pandemic. I mean, how wild would that have been? Especially as she mentioned she couldn't talk. So just taking in information and not being able to say anything at first. But where she's at now compared to where she was, I'm honestly blown away. If you look at her Instagram, like I said, I'll drop it in the show notes. You look at some of the videos of her going through stuff and having to learn how to walk again and do all those things that most of us just take for granted every single day. I know I do at times. To learn how to do all that, come out the other side, and now be on a mission and a journey to help others. I mean, it's truly inspiring. Truly, truly inspiring. So I hope you guys love this episode as much as I did. As always, if you're enjoying the show, drop a review on Apple or Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify, leave a comment. They have a new comment section and polls. I try to put a poll on each episode so you can share your thoughts there, or you can drop some feedback and stuff for the people to check it out. Since this is a rerun episode, the first time we recorded was in September. And now our friend's got over 1,400 days sober. Incredibly powerful. Be sure to send her a message over on Instagram. Let her know you appreciate the story. And keep sharing, my friend. Until next time, let's go.